This video lesson is a review of polynomial operations. Operations meaning addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So as a reminder, when you're adding or subtracting polynomial expressions, the way to do that is just by grouping together like terms. And the like terms are the ones that have the exact same variables and the same exponents. So the first thing I need to do here, when I'm subtracting these two expressions, is that I need to get them to be individual terms. And that means distributing the hidden 1 that's in front of this bracket and the hidden negative 1 in front of this one. I'll write out all of the individual terms. So if you want to pause and give that a try, you can. I'll show what the answer is now. As I distribute this 1, all the terms stay the same. This negative 1 means that I have to multiply it by the 4x, by the negative 7x squared, and by the 1, and these are the terms that I end up with. And finally, these are like terms because they have the exact same variable and exponent. When I add them by just adding up the coefficients, 4 plus 7, and the variable and the exponent do not change. These are like terms as well. And when I add negative 3 plus negative 4, I get negative 7. The x's do not change. And these are like terms. They are both constants. When I add them, I get 4. And that's my answer, and that's the most simplified this gets. So that's just a recap of adding and subtracting. As for multiplying, when I have an expression like this 4a squared b cubed is stuck next to these brackets, it means that this 4a squared b cubed is going to multiply each of the terms inside. And as a reminder, multiplying each individual set of monomials, so this one times this one, this one times this one, this one times this one, they multiply by multiplying coefficients. And when you multiply powers, that means, for instance, a squared b cubed times a cubed b, I add the exponents of like variables. So in this first product here, I'm going to get the product of the coefficients. For the variables a squared times a cubed, that becomes a to the power 5. I add them, and this becomes b to the power 4. For my next product here, if you want to try it on your own, you can pause, but this is going to become negative 16 a squared b to the power 7, because there was only an a squared here, and I'm not adding any other a's. That's how that stays. Remember the rules that I add the exponents. And finally, this one here will become a to the power negative 2 b to the power positive 2. And finally, if there are any negative exponents, those negative exponents are rewritten. So if they were in the numerator, they move to the denominator and vice versa. And it's just that a to the power negative 2 that moves down. So that's a reminder of how to multiply. And just as another example, if I multiply these two binomials together, I have to double distribute them. That is like using the acronym the first, outer, inner, and last, where the f, the first terms, are these. They are the first in each bracket. That's this one here and this one here. So I'll multiply those two together. I'll write out that product. The o refers to the two outside terms, the outer terms. That is to say, this one here and this one here are the two on the extreme outsides of that product. And I'll multiply those two and write their product there. The I refers to the inner terms, that is, the two terms on the inside. And I would write their product down here. These in-between steps you do not need to show. And finally, the L refers to the last term in each bracket. That is this one and this one here. And I'll write down their product as well. And finally, after all of that, now that I have pluses and minuses separating the terms, I can group any like terms, and I do that the same way that I add or subtract. In this case, the like terms are these two. They're the two x cubed terms. That's this negative 35x cubed and the positive 4x cubed. Those two can be combined, and I do that just by adding their coefficients. So that is how to multiply binomials. That's obviously off by a little bit. I apologize about that. And finally, the final operation is dividing. When you are dividing, each expression in the dividend, that's this blue part, is divided by the divisor. That's what I'm dividing by. So I have to divide this term by this one by this one, and this one by this one. And the opposite of multiplication Dividing means that I divide coefficients, and it means that I subtract exponents of like variables. So in this division here, I would get negative 15 divided by 3, it's negative 5. The x's, I'll subtract exponents, and the y's, I'll subtract exponents. My next term, if you want to try pausing it, try it on your own, works out to be plus 9xy squared. And then this one here becomes minus x cubed. Negative 3 divided by positive 3 is just negative 1, and you don't have to write a 1 if there is something else multiplied by it. And the y terms, 3 minus 3 is 0, y to the power 0 is 1, and again, I don't have to write that, so those cancel out. That one's lined up nicely. Way to go, Elbling. Also, just that you know, in terms of notation, these two divisions mean the same thing. So whether it is written with brackets and a divided by sign, or the whole thing is written over, the procedure is the same. That is it for an introduction to polynomial operations.